Hey guys, welcome back to Amber Oaks Ranch. If you watched my previous video where I replaced the transmission bearings on this thing, when I reassembled everything and went to start it up, I encountered another problem. So here we are inside of the hammer mill. You can see there's an auger down there at the bottom. It feeds up to the mixer. As the drive shaft, the input PTO turns, it also turns this auger, and as the grain falls through the screen, it gets moved over to the mixer. And then also there is a hopper on the backside that enables you to add minerals, etc., and then that pushes it into the mixer as well. Well, this when the transmission broke, there was grain already in, there was a bag of soybean meal already in the input auger, and I'll show you a picture of that here in a second. And as a result, I'm guessing that extra force on here, I imagine it's supposed to be a shear pin, and then this is supposed to shear, but what happened is actually something internal here broke, to where this shaft that comes in is attached to the auger via this pin, and instead of breaking the pin, it looks like it's peeled off something internal to this. And as you can see, there's a weld on here already. So somebody's already gone into this and repaired it once. I cannot figure out how to remove this this input auger. It doesn't seem to be an easy thing to do. Actually, it doesn't seem to be possible at all. I would have to grind out some welds on the backside and slide it all the way out, which I may end up doing, but it looks like I'm going to probably attempt to do what they've already done, which is cut these welds out, get into the shaft on the inside of this, repair that, and then weld this cap back over it. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll see how it progresses. All right, here's the other half of that auger. It's on the back side. All right, here's the grain mill. The inlet to the hammer mill is up front, and then this is a hopper here that you can add stuff in. And as you can see here, I've got soybean meal in there, and this is where it was when the transmission broke. So I've got to get that grain out of there, see if I can rotate that auger and find out what's wrong. So let's get started there. All right, I've gotten most of the grain out of there. I'm able to put a set of channel locks on the auger itself and somewhat rotate this. And just keep working this around and using my hand to get out what grain I can get out. Definitely a laborious process. I've got about 40 pounds out. There's quite a lot of mixed stuff here now. Once it goes up into the mixer, it gets mixed with the corn residue, so it's quite abrasive and it's hard to turn.
All right, when looking for replacement parts, this is the parts section that applies. This is the conveyor, the input conveyor. Here is the hopper for adding stuff, and then this end is underneath of the hammer mill. As you can see, they're kind of rotating, bringing everything to the center where it goes up into the mixer. If you recall, my shaft ended about right here and didn't have this extension, and it appears that whoever owned this in the past had put that coupling in and welded that in place, and this shaft extension here, they just used a different shaft, which in my case is a 1-inch by 10-inch keyed shaft. So I'm just going to replace that, and I'm going to use the existing collar that they have there, and I'm not going to put such a large bolt through it. And so I think that's the approach I'm going to take. You can get the shaft, oddly enough, I couldn't find a 1-inch shaft on Amazon. So McMaster-Carr, Granger, or in my case, went to eBay. So we'll get that in a couple of weeks, and we'll be back to reassemble it.
Okay, here we're looking at the drive mechanism that turns that auger. This shaft here goes into the housing and it meets up with that auger. If you remember that bolt that went through that held the two together, something is wrong with this shaft. So instead of pulling out that auger or cutting that auger, I think what I'm going to try to do is remove this shaft. It doesn't look like it's overly complicated. There is a pillow block here on this bracket and then this one here, and I should be able to remove those and get that shaft out, and then maybe I can repair the shaft on the bench and then insert it back again. All right, I've got this cover plate off. You can see the pillow block holding this shaft in place. There is an idler gear on the other side here of this mount. So I'm going to loosen that idler gear. That should enable me to get this chain off. And then I'm just going to remove this entire bracket and slide this assembly out. I'll have to take this pillow block apart, but I'm going to leave this pillow block mounted to the bracket and just remove the whole bracket. All right, I've got this bracket disassembled, just those 4 bolts there. I like to put the hardware back together so I don't lose it. I've got this pillow block disengaged, the chain's disengaged. I should be able to withdraw that whole shaft assembly, and so let's see if I can get that done. All right, a couple taps on the hammer, I was able to get that shaft out. And looking inside, you can see that it's been sheared off. So here's the shaft here, and you can see where that bolt goes through. It basically just sheared off the ends of this. So I'm gonna have to get the other half out, and then I'll have to rebuild that somehow, or replace the whole shaft. So I can't seem to get a hold of it, so what I've done is stuck a welding rod on the end of the shaft that's inside of there, and I'm going to try to work it out. I don't expect this is going to work, but it's worth a chance. It's a pretty easy undertaking. All right, so as suspected, getting a welding rod stuck on there and pulling it out, it wasn't enough to get it out. So I drilled and tapped a hole in the end of that shaft and screwed this piece of, I guess it's a 1/4 28 bolt in here, and I'm going to try to put a set of vice grips on there and whack on that to drive it out. We'll see how that turns out. All right, so I ended up snapping this one off, so I was able to drill a bigger hole. I have a 3/8 16 in there now. Okay, I've got a 3/8 16 in there, and I'm tightening it up the bolt, which is drawing out the shaft, maybe. So I'm making a little bit of progress, very slow, having to add washers and replace the bolt every once in a while because it seems to be stripping out. But we'll just keep persevering. All right. So that worked to get the shaft out. That's the broken half of the shaft. And the hole for the other shaft. So I think what I'm gonna do is price this shaft, replacement shaft out tomorrow and see if it's not cheaper to just get a new shaft and take these gears and bearings off and put on a new shaft. It would probably be a much better solution than me trying to weld it on and drill a new hole. So we'll come back tomorrow and see how that looks. Okay, after a long wait for my replacement shaft, I'm going to remove all of the components off of the existing shaft, swap it out with this new shaft. I'm going to drill a hole here to basically be able to pin it where the old one broke. I'm going to go with a much smaller diameter hole and hope that that bolt holds. I can always go up from there or fix it some other way. But that large of a hole, I think, is part of the problem here. There wasn't enough meat on either side to withstand the torque there. So I'll get a high strength bolt and put in there, and hopefully that'll fix my problem. So we'll come back once I get the new shaft on. Okay, in my zeal, I forgot to take a picture of the new shaft mounted. But as you can see, I've got it installed here, and I've got to tighten up a couple of things. Just got to line up my chain, tension the tighten the tension sprocket. But that's it, and I should get this thing up and running shortly. And one final shot from the inside. You can see the shaft is installed into the auger, and I used a smaller diameter bolt to go through there. Same configuration that they had previously, except smaller diameter. So let's hope this works. I wish I had a stronger bolt. I'll probably replace it here if and when it fails. So hopefully you guys never encounter any of this, but if you have to, you know, if yours is configured like mine, I think this is the right way to go about fixing it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.